Hey, Jody here. This is a podcast episode number 54. We have a special guest, Frank Fleurquin. You know, the way we run this podcast is that every other week, every other episode, we have a special guest on. And the other weeks, we talk about a topic like pricing jobs, troubleshooting, things like that. I know not everybody wants to see a podcast here. I know that. But a lot of people do. So if you see the word podcast in the heading and you see the black icon with a guy with a microphone, just know that's a podcast. If that's not your cup of tea, you know, there'll be another video coming real soon. So here we go. Frank Fleurquin, he builds trophy trucks, the kind that go through the desert way faster than you think they should. And if you've ever climbed up in a roll cage to make those coped tubing joints on 4130 chromoly, you know it ain't that easy, but he makes it look easy. So I think you'll appreciate it. I'm going to try to do a slideshow here and show you some of his work. Here's the podcast.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Welding Tips and Tricks podcast. I'm Roy Crumrine here with Jody Collier.
Hello.
And Jonathan Lewis.
Hello, everyone.
And today we've got a special guest, and that is Frank Fleurquin.
How you guys doing?
Good, Frank. Glad to have you on.
Absolutely.
And for anyone that doesn't know who Frank is for some reason, if you go on his Instagram page, you will be completely awestruck. He does some phenomenal TIG welding and fabricating.
That is true. That is true. That's not even a fluffed up exaggeration like we might do, which actually we've never done.
No.
Never tried to exaggerate anything, but I've often said that sometimes I just have to quit looking because every picture of every cluster joint or on a roll cage or some chromoly joint, it just looks too perfect. So I get pissed off and quit looking.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, that's
all filters.
I'm sure. Yeah, but it is anybody that's ever crawled up in either a aircraft fuselage to try to weld chromoly, like, you know, clustered coped joints, or a roll cage or whatever, you can just appreciate the effort and thought process and workflow and everything that goes into it, because it ain't that easy. You know, that you got that tight crotch that takes a whole different amount of heat, and then you got the joint changes as you go. You got to get the right torque angle and roll your wrist, and you know, and to stack dimes and have everything look like it does is that's why we got you on today. We're trying to pick your brain a little bit, get some tips and tricks on that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of different things that go into it. I mean, it's like you said, you know, you add more heat to one area and less heat in the other area, and just kind of let it flow. It's a lot of feel. I mean, I most of the time I leave my welder set at, like, 180 or 190 amps and just kind of feel it out with the pedal, just so I don't have to get up and, you know, go change my welder every time I weld a 6.5 joint to a 9.5 joint or whatever. I just kind of feel it out with the pedal and just kind of go from there.
Right.
It's I just pulled up one sample picture. I'm on my laptop now as we're recording here, and so I'm looking at, you know, a couple of different angles along with a gusset plate, and, you know, everything's a different type joint, and even those joints change as they roll around somewhere, and yet it pretty much looks super consistent, uniform. Looks like a machine did it, you know. And so, you know, I can definitely appreciate what goes into it, because, like, this particular joint I'm looking at now is like, okay, if you were to weld both sides of that gusset, that even poses some other issues. I'm sure you can speak to that a little bit, you know, because if you've ever welded anything, either just regular DOM tubing or cold rolled steel or chromoly or even stainless, you know, once you weld on one side, if you don't have that other side backed up, you got all that oxidation going on. Second side doesn't weld like the first side. So there's things to think about on gussets that not maybe obvious to the average dude.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff you're seeing, a lot of like the gusset stuff. I'm guessing it's probably the second picture you were looking at.
Maybe. yeah. The second most recent picture is the one I pulled up.
Yeah, that's it is a gusset, but then there's a tube mount that goes right in that hole underneath, and that another tube mounts to that holds the gas tank in.
Okay.
That gusset doesn't get welded on either side, but yeah, you're right. If you weld the other side, you definitely have to take precautions, and you have to sand the crap out of it before you can even think about, you know, getting back in there with a TIG welder and trying to weld it. I use Klingsport makes a it's called a sanding star that works great, and that's what I use on everything after if I'm going back in on a second pass, or if the The scale hasn't been cleaned off in the first pass. I'll use that. It works amazing.
Oh, is that one of those crisscross things with sort of emery cloth folded on it, or what is it?
Yep, it's like sandpaper folded on it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it works great.
What's it called again?
It's made by Klingspor, and it's called, I think they call it a sanding star.
Okay. Everybody can look that up. I'm sure they'll find if we describe it, sort of in generic terms, I'm sure they can find what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one or two here and there.
And you just stick it in a 1/4 inch, in your die grinder and go to town. It works great.
Before we get too far in here, do you want to talk about what type of work you do for people that might not know who you are?
I build off-road race trucks. I build trophy trucks for, the Baja 1000, the Baja 500. These are, $500,000 machines that $500,000 to $600,000 machines that, go through the desert at 135, 140 mile an hour and hit 3-foot whoops and you don't even feel a thing. It's like driving a Cadillac.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. That's just crazy. $500,000 riding through the desert.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that buy these, they're always going to have money. They're never going to run out of money because you don't win anything. You could win the Baja 1000 and you'd win, prize money is like $2,000.
Really?
Yeah, and it cost you, $65,000, $70,000 to get there to race it.
So it's just all bragging rights then.
Yeah, that's all it is.
You and Joel from Overkill, cross paths any?
Oh yes, yeah. Joel's a great guy. We talk and text quite a bit back and forth. He, I think it was 2 years ago at SEMA. He texted me, "Hey man, I'm heading back to New Mexico. Is it cool if I stop by your house?" Like, yeah, come on by. And after that, we just kind of we hit it off. And great guy, love the guy to death.
Yeah, he's pretty easy to like.
Yeah.
One of the things we, sort of the template questions we ask everybody is how did you get into welding?
I guess it probably have to be from my dad. My dad was a master machinist that came over to the States from Belgium, and he had a shop. We always had machinery, welders, and it just kind of started. I learned arc welding from him. That's where I learned all my machining skills, and so arc welding and brazing, and when I was about 16, our house was like the neighborhood chop shop. So everybody bring their cars to my house. They had me cut springs on them and lower them, and whatever we could do to get these things on the ground. They'd come into my house, and so I kind of picked it up from him, and then I ended up getting a job building mining equipment, a lot of arc welding and a lot of inner shield stuff, and and he bought a race car, and that's kind of how I got into the off-road industry through him.
Cool.
And I think I was 20 when I started working there, 19, 20.
So have you mostly been in the off-road, the motorsport industry in your welding career? Has that been the majority of it, or how long have you been doing that?
Yeah, the majority, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, before that it was, mining equipment, and that's really about it. Big shakers, big screens, big conveyors, trommels, you name it. If it was in a mine, we built it.
It generates a lot of work for welders, mining does, and in the same way that just construction and whatnot generates work for guys like Isaac, IC Weld, Yeah, they break up excavators and backhoes and whatnot, and he goes and fixes it. As long as they're working, they're generating work for somebody, Yeah. It's a rough work.
Exactly. And that's another one. He's another great guy. I loved meeting him too. He's another one. I met so many people at FabTech. It was, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm not even going to talk about that much because I think I overdo it sometimes. But I just say, I met you at FabTech, and it was a cool little, few minute conversation, and I'd seen your Instagram posts, and so I kind of knew of you, but I had never met you before. But hope to see you again sometime there.
Oh, for sure. I wish the next one wasn't so far away. Otherwise, I'd be there.
Yeah, it's a good haul from where you are to Chicago.
Yeah. So
we fly there every day, though.
But you were talking about, setting your amperage to a certain thing and running the foot pedal. And what kind of machine are you running these days?
At Geyser Brothers, it's a Lincoln 275. So that's pretty much what I run there all day. And then I have a Dynasty 280 here at my home shop.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's how you go from one to another, and it's a whole different learning process again, going from the Lincoln back to the Miller, just because the I guess response time, I guess you would say.
Response time on the pedal?
Yeah.
You have the cordless pedal?
I do, and I also replaced the cordless pedal with the SSC control one, which is identical to a Lincoln pedal. That helped it a little bit, but it's still a little bit, it doesn't have that snappiness like a transformer welder does.
That's interesting because everybody switches over to inverters for a certain whatever, and you're saying you got a better response on the pedal with a transformer machine. Now that brings us into the whole pedal wamping or pulsing with the pedal type thing. That's apparently something that you're part of your technique, is it not?
It is, and I get some people give me grief about it. Some people say, why don't you do set the pulse on the machine? And go, well, when you're tied up in a chassis, it's a little bit harder to try and set it up and stay timed with it. And when you can just back it off a little bit with the pedal, or if you see you see the pedal moving out in the wrong direction, you can back it up the other way, and so it makes it a little easier by pulsing by your foot.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed, I think, because I've played around, and I've even played around with pulsing with a lot of people maybe don't know that you can. It just depends on the controls on your machine, but if you have a switch on your torch, and if you have a downslope, you could set the downslope for about 2 seconds, and you can pretty much pulse with a switch. So instead of just going on and off, it drops 2 seconds from whatever you're at and that gives you enough. It's very similar to pulsing with the pedal. Maybe some people might want to set it to 3 seconds. So it's in there somewhere in that range. But with the pedal, yeah, it's kind of like you can't always move your hand perfectly to be ready for that 1 pulse a second or 1.5 pulses a second or 0.7 pulses a second or whatever. And with the foot pedal, you're doing probably sometimes 0.7, sometimes 1, sometimes 1.5, whatever you get in the groove on, Yeah.
Exactly.
Results are very hard to argue with. So, when anybody pulls up that picture that I just pulled up, I don't know how anybody could argue with or give you grief over it,
I get a lot of people, why, because the whole truck's usually, it's welded twice. So there's a root pass and then a cap pass. They're like, well, why do you do that? I go, well, because, the root, it takes up, if there's any imperfection in the cope or whatever, it takes up some of that, and then you can lay your cap pass over the top of it. Well, they're like, well, you're making it weaker, and you got to try and slow them down and say, well, I'm not going back over it. Right after I just do that, you got to walk away. I think that's the biggest key to it, is walking away and not getting greedy with your weld, especially on a cap pass. A lot of times I'll do half the tube and walk away just so I don't, cook the tube.
Mm-hmm.
What type of material are most of your frames?
It's all 4130. Everything's 4130. Even the plate, all the plates, the tubing, it's all condition in 4130.
So now, do you have to do any, like some people say you have to preheat or don't preheat 4130 material? Do you do any of that?
No, if it's over 120 wall, I might preheat it a little bit, but other than that, no. I usually set my welder. I'm probably not the guy that follows the rules. I usually set my welder a little hotter than most. Like I said, it usually sits about 190, so my root passes are a little warmer, and just so I know it's digging in and penetrating where I want it to penetrate.
Right.
And all the tube, nothing on the chassis itself is over 120 wall.
Okay.
That's what most technical data, no studies that have been done out there, reports and whatnot, and there's a lot of them, because companies like Lincoln, for instance, went to great lengths to prove that, because there was such a transition in aircraft, there was that old school mentality that you have to gas weld 4130 chromoly. That's no good if you TIG weld. There was a time when that was the thought process.
Right.
And, they went to great lengths to hire PhDs and stuff to do studies and make welds and do micro-hardness traverse tests and all this stuff to prove that. And basically they said what you're saying, 120 wall and under, no preheat needed. The properties are just fine, with no post-heat treatment at all. Some people recommend ER70S2, some ER80SD2. I don't know if I've ever seen one fail right in the weld. Usually those 4130 joints, if they're going to fail, they're right on the toe or heat affected zone or something. So I don't know that it makes much difference on the filler wire between those two, but one may flow better than the other, and that may be the kicker, But yeah, they say all the technical data says 120 wall and below, no preheat needed. Just go for it.
Yeah, like our spindles and stuff like that all gets heat treated afterwards, but that's all thicker stuff anyway. So we have a guy that's all he does, that he sits in a room and just welds suspension parts all day long. Spindles, A-arms, trailing arms. Great guy, amazing welder. But yeah, that's what he does. He just sits there and welds suspension all day.
So what filler wire do you use?
All the chassis stuff's ER70.
Okay.
The guy that does the suspension parts that get heat treated, does he use 4130 filler, or is he using like something else?
Nope, it's ER70 and maybe sometimes ER80.
Okay.
Interesting. That'll get people out of the woodwork. Be like, no, you're doing it all wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
You know, you could be doing it wrong there, but the thing is that if the right engineering goes into those things, the strength is in the design, not so much in the welds. You know, of course the welds matter, but like when you're talking about, when you look at some of these joints where there's 10 tubes going into an intersection and they're all coped and fit in there and there's gussets and everything, it's not just the welds. The strength of that component is not depending on the strength of any one weld. It's all triangulated and gusseted and everything, and it's the design. I think data-wise, the ER70 is the most popular. I don't see any point, unless you just like the way something flows better, ER70S2 or ER80SD2. I think either one's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we use, the S2, and pretty much everything. And sometimes, you see a lot of people, they'll cap it with 312. Sometimes they'll cap it with a 312 just to make it flow a little nicer, make it look a little nicer.
Uh-huh.
But I usually, everything we do is, just the ER70.
Yeah. I've read quite a lot of articles about using 309 or 312 on chromoly, and, you can get good results. It's just that it's kind of, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on, like if you got a gap on something, then you're going to get more dilution of the chromoly into the weld. And if you don't have a gap, you get less dilution. So you'll come out with a weld with completely different properties in between those two. So, I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's a lot of thought out there that just use the ADSD2 and alone.
That's why a lot of people just cap with the rather than doing a root with it.
Okay. So when you do your roots, are you pulsing the pedal too, or are you more traditional, just zipping that in there?
Traditional, and cram as much rod in there and as fast as I can.
Gotcha.
So how do you approach starting one of these frames?
Well, nowadays it's nice because they all come on a pallet. Like everything's all CNC bent. It's all, laser notched.
Nice.
Nowadays they come on a pallet after we had it all engineered. But 3, 4, 5 years, 4 years ago, we were still all doing them by hand. So bending, notching, everything.
I saw a post earlier, just a couple hours ago, from ZT Fab. Got several pallets full of bent 4130 tubing, coped, and all that, sitting out there ready to go to the customer.
Yeah.
He's another one that, he's an awesome, sharp dude. And yeah. So I ran into him at the last Fab Tech and was fortunate we got to get together for a meal. Looking forward to the next time I run into him.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because everything's all numbered and it just goes together like a puzzle, and almost zero gaps on everything. So it makes it really, really, really nice to weld.
That was what I was going to ask, is how does it all fit together? Because if they cut it a little bit short all over the place, that could be pretty bad.
Yeah, if it's cut short, then we'll just go ahead and we'll make a new one by ourselves and just put it in where it's supposed to go. But other than that, we've been pretty lucky. We haven't had anything that's come up short or a miscope, and sometimes you got to fine tune them a little bit. Like we're using an abrasive notcher at work, so that's always a lifesaver there, because then you can fine tune it and just take a little bit off here, take a little bit off there. So it makes it a lot easier to cope with that rather than a hole saw and a mill or any of the other fancy dancy notchers they have out there, the big end mill notchers.
Yeah, that notching has come a long way, hasn't it?
Oh, and then some.
I remember I bought this DVD of guys doing kit planes. I think it's a Experimental Aircraft Association sponsored thingy-majigger. I don't remember, but these guys are just basically notching with tin snips for the most part, because the tubing is maybe ½ inch, 3/4, and maybe 25, 30 thousandths thick.
Yeah.
And just eyeballing and notching with tin snips and gas weld and everything, and they got gaps galore. They got 1/8 inch gaps, no big deal, fill it in. After I watched that, I'm like, there's no reason for anybody to worry about welding one of these kit planes, But I visited a friend of mine a few years ago who has built several kit planes, he was talking about it, having ordered one from somewhere that was CNC notched. And he's like, man, you couldn't fit a hair in any one of those joints. They were just perfect.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, the only thing we do, we get them off the pallet and we take the mill scale off where the weld joints are, and that's it.
Yeah. It's nice to have the mill scale off.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I know. The one, sometimes you get thrown in a situation. Hey, will you do me a favor and come weld this thing? And you're like, okay, sure. It'll only take a little while. And you show up and everything's all tacked up already. Ain't nothing been cleaned, right. And you're like, crap. You think you're going to go in there and strut and lay down a really awesome bead. And then you're like, it's not going to look awesome. It does make a difference. Yeah.
Looks like sparklers from outside of your helmet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I just say, sorry, I can't do it. Walk away.
Yeah.
And that's where that sanding star comes in pretty handy. You zip over that, it'll get the outside one, and you're still kind of out of luck with the, whatever's underneath that tube. So
with the laser notching, do you have to dress the laser cut end too, like kind of the dross or whatever that's from the laser?
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. There's really not a problem with it. I've never had any problem with it, any kind of buildup or coming out through the puddle, or it's always been. I don't know what gas we're using or whatever for the laser, but no, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've worked with some laser cutting, and it just has like a blue burnt end on the sheet metal, and man, that stuff just welds terrible. And just quickly zip it off, and a night and day difference. But the company, they're like, don't take the time to do that. It's like, what, 2 minutes? Come on.
And I get that all the time. Well, that's not very cost effective. And I go, hey, well, these guys are spending $600,000 on a truck. It is what it is.
Let me take an extra 15 minutes to make it look really nice.
Right. Exactly. I've been trying to get my boss to get one of those tube polishers forever, and he just won't do it. So a lot of times on the mating joint, we'll have to, I'll DA it first, and then I'll tack it, and then I'll go back over with the sanding star.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at a couple of your pictures, and it looks like a DA finished at the end. I was going to ask, is that, you find that's good enough to just polish it off with a DA sander and go?
On some of the stuff, like wherever the weld's at, it's DA'd and it's sanded with a sanding star. Just outside of the weld is where you see the DA stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything pretty much sanded is pretty smooth.
One of the things that interests me is obviously with the Baja trucks, I mean, they get destroyed at some point in time in their life. So do you get to see any repairs or like end results after races and get to look at, a chassis that you built and be like, okay, that didn't work, or it broke here or broke there, or hey, Frank fixed this, that kind of a thing, the after effects?
Yeah, we get that all the time. We prep and maintain 6 trucks. So yeah, we see the after effects of all that stuff. So some come back good, some come back not so good. Some come back with the front bumpers torn off, some come back with the rear bumpers torn off. Sometimes they flip it and everything's screwed up, and then you got to cut half the top of the cage off, or cut one of the front shock mounts off, and so yeah, it gets quite a bit.
That's quite an education when you can see how something performed in service that you worked on. And then if something's wrong due to something you did, then you have the opportunity to learn from it and modify or whatever. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm thinking about a guy that I know that does a lot of sanitary tubing. He goes from location to location, and he installs sanitary stainless tubing systems for steam washers. Like they might be washing out the inside of a tanker truck that hauls milk or Hershey syrup or something, and then he gets called on to maintain these same things that he has installed himself. So if he, maybe he cooked a stainless joint a little bit too much and turned it a little bit gray, and sees that 5 years later it's starting to show some speckles of rust on there, he changes things up and makes sure not to do that again. And he's got a good memory. I mean, it's very similar. Even in aircraft, you guys would say, I remember that part coming in here 2 years ago, and so there's some benefit to paying attention, and when you can see how your part performed in service.
There is. I mean, we have our trucks, they change hands so many times. Like somebody will, they'll buy it, we'll build it, and they'll race it a few years, and they'll sell it. and that guy will race it and sell it, and 7 years down the line it comes back for something, and then that's when you start scratching your head and say, when do I remember? I think I remember this one. There's so many of them out there. I think we have, I want to say 70 something trucks out there that we've built.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's quite a few. That's a lot of tube welding right there.
Yeah.
What is your favorite kind of work?
There or at home?
Well, either way. In fact, two answers wouldn't hurt. Like what your favorite kind of work at work and your favorite kind of work to get. Like, when you say at home, are you talking about like a side hustle type thing that you do on the side, or
Yeah, I have a home shop also. I work 3 days a week at Geyser Brothers, and then the rest of the time I work in my shop. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday is at my shop, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is at Geyser Brothers.
Yeah, I'd like to know both answers at Geyser Brothers and just what kind of work you do on your own.
Geyser Brothers, you got to love to building the one-off parts, the mounting different stuff and figuring out different cooler ways to mount stuff, or if it's a new chassis being built, you finally get it on a rotisserie and you can just put your headphones in and put your hood down and just turn the music up and just weld and weld and weld. I love to weld. I just love it. At home, anything that doesn't have anything to do with off-road, I love to do at home.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I do, a lot of chopper stuff. I've done a lot of bagger stuff. Hot rod stuff. I love hot rod stuff. And anything old school, traditional, stuff like that. Like the last picture I think was on there of a rear fender I did for a chopper. And that was a lot of fun. Just stuff like that. Anything that doesn't have nothing to do with off-road. Like somebody will come and ask me, hey, I did a cage built for my 94 Toyota 4Runner. Nope. Keep on driving.
I do that during the day. No thanks.
Right? That's what you don't. You don't want to come home and do the same thing you do during the week.
Right.
You like a change of pace and stuff like that. The chopper stuff's cool. I was on the Discovery Channel for a biker build-off show called Biker Live. That was a lot of fun to do. I was on the Nashville Network. I built a frame for a guy on a biker build-off that was on a Nashville Network. That was pretty cool. Stuff like that. I love doing stuff like that.
You have people coming to you on the personal side because of things they see your work posted on Instagram or on the TV shows or anything like that. They want welds to look a certain way on their whatever it is, whether their chopper or their whatever.
Yep. I do. I had another guy at a West Coast choppers frame wanted me to just kind of go back over the welds that was done and make it look a little nicer, stuff like that. Change the neck gusset up in that and stuff like that. Yeah, I get a lot of stuff like that all the time.
I would imagine that you do. I've seen some pretty high end choppers, and if you really start looking at the welds, they're not always that great. That's kind of like people aren't really focused on that, and then you get somebody who kind of they want a certain look on the welds on their whatever it is, their chopper or their bike or their roll cage or whatever. They want a certain look on the welds. They're that detailed. They want things to look a certain way, and if I had a chopper, I would want all the welds to look like you did them.
Right, and being everybody's welders, that's kind of the first thing you go to is the joint.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it kind of is what it is, and most people, they just look for the shiny stuff, and I look for the other stuff. I want to see how it's built, how it's engineered, and I don't care about the glitz and the glamour. I want to see the strength of it.
Yeah.
That's cool. You get work from your online presence, your Instagram, following and whatnot. That's really nice. Not everybody, or at least not all of us, know that we get that. So that's kind of cool to hear.
And it is. Me and my wife are at a point in our life where we kind of, I'll go backstory. Geyser Brothers, we all grew up together. So we all went to high school. We all lived in the same neighborhood. We all hung out when we were kids. And we were all into Volkswagens and off-road racing and this and that. And so it's cool that I get to do my own thing when I want. So I want to say not really come and go when I want, but it makes it a lot easier so we can do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps out quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah, that is kind of a big deal. Once you've experienced a little bit of freedom like that, where you can cut out for a month or whatever if you have to, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not getting any younger, so now we're taking a little more time to travel, and my daughter and her husband, they're in the Army in Texas, so we try and go out there, once a month, once every other month, or we just did Alaska cruise, and just got to get out and do more.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I seem to remember seeing not too long ago you had some shoulder surgery or something like that.
Yeah, second time around on that shoulder.
Really?
Yeah, and it's still not 100%. I mean, it still hurts. It's still, I don't know. The doctor said I have thin tendons. I don't know where that came from, but so they fixed what they could and did my rotator cuff and redid my rotator cuff and shortened up my bicep tendon, and so it still hurts and gives me fits, and so my skateboarding career is over.
Is that where that came from? Skateboarding?
No, the last one I did it at work. One of the chassis was on a rotisserie, and I just kind of shoved it up in the wrong direction and just kind of tore the rotator cuff, and bad news. But I mean, I've been a skateboarder since I was a kid, my whole life, and that was it. That was the final straw. So I just got rid of my skateboard ramp, my half pipe, probably 3 months ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 50-year-old man out back skateboarding.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, I got 2 boys, and the youngest just got married back in June, and he was a big time skateboarder. Both of them love skateboarding, but he got into it a little deeper, and he's got some back problems now due to falling on a rail,
Yeah,
it's you can get some injuries skateboarding, no doubt.
I've had plenty of them.
And that speaks to the not getting any younger issue. I got lots of little aches and pains that I work around every day, but you just got to keep going, right?
Yeah, that's all you can do. Just keep chugging along. Like I said, so that's over with. So I'd rather just, try and stay as healthy as I can and not try and hurt myself. I'm afraid if I hurt my shoulder again, it's not going to work anymore. So.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of need that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple times where you said getting a frame on a rotisserie. You want to explain a little bit about what that fixture is?
Yeah, when the chassis comes in on a pallet, it comes off the pallet, and there's a big fixture table with all these different holders on it that the tubes lay in. So everything kind of clicks together there. So that's the fixture table is where it all gets tacked together, and I'll try and lay as many root passes as I can, standing up or leaning over. And then once I get it off of that, it goes on a rotisserie. So I can just spin it around and sit in my chair and get what I can and just go to town.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's a must-have in for what you're doing, though. I mean, really, if you're doing $600,000 vehicles, it's just kind of like you got to go. That's just, man, it just, being comfortable is huge. And when you're 20, climbing all around and, doing all that seems like a good idea. But when you're 50, all of a sudden it's like, that's not the smart way. Let's get the rotisserie in here.
Yeah, it's definitely, I still find myself having to, crawl up and lean in and, laying on your back and, putting the pedal between your legs or, you still end up doing stuff like that. But the rotisserie makes it's so much easier just because everything's right. You try and get everything right in front of you, and then it makes it a lot easier. As long as you can rest your hands, you're good.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Probably makes it a lot faster too, so much more efficient.
It does. It does.
Well, you fabricate and you weld the chassis. Do you get to do it in the other assembly, like the motors or anything else?
Yeah, once chassis is well, it depends how many people we have back in my area. If there's not a whole lot going on, if there's not another chassis that's got to go back up on the fixture table, I'll come off and then I'll start assembling the truck into its final stages and getting it race ready and stuff like that. 80% of the truck is built while it's still on the rotisserie. So,
really,
yeah. I mean, we'll mount the motor, the tranny, shock mounts, pretty much almost everything. All the aluminum work's still done while it's on the rotisserie, all the body work, just so you can still spin it and, get to everything. And so it makes it a lot easier.
That would be nice.
Yeah. And then once that's all done, once it's time to start hanging suspension on it, that's pretty much when it comes off.
Are there any other special kind of crazy, weird tools that you use that a normal welder wouldn't know about?
Not really. Other than an abrasive tubing notcher, that's kind of about it. There's really not a whole lot of specialty tooling on our side of the shop. That it's still pretty much the way it's been for years and years and years.
Cool. Do you have any favorites on Tig Setups? I've seen Like you've got the FUPA cup and a couple other different ones. Do you have any preference on those type of things, or just?
I love the FUPA cup, but it doesn't love chassis work.
Clink.
Yeah.
Really? Why?
Yeah. I mean, I love the FUPA cup, and it's just you just can't. I can't keep them in stock. They you just set it down, and your lead will slip off a tube and smack on the floor, or you turn the wrong way and smack a tube, and then it's done. The SPW cup, that worked pretty good. It's a Teflon cup. You can't run it very hot.
Yeah, they'll tend to melt if you drag it just a touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Fleurquin, you've seen, I'm sure, the posts. He's working on a ceramic version of the FUPA.
Yeah.
So I'm keenly interested in that. I sell his products on my online store.
Right.
And I'm going to definitely be selling that when he comes up with that.
I'm definitely going to work on getting one of them. I'd definitely be interested in getting one of those.
All right. See if I can help you out with that.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't, I keep on to get a hold of, Arc Zone and get one of the monster cups. I haven't gotten around to that yet either, though. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of good cups out there these days.
There is.
And there really are. I haven't had, gone to the effort to do a trial and compare all of them or try all of them, but you can see the results on Instagram posts. It's obvious that they all work, and so eventually I'll probably try some of them. But I was at a Fab Tech, I guess it was, might have been Vegas. No, when was it? I guess it was Chicago. But Michael, we were at one of the booths. I think it was a Lincoln booth. He walks up and we're talking, and he hands me a cup. And it was probably close to a year before I ever put them on my store because I guess I'm slow, But when I tried it out, and I'm like, this freaking thing is exceptional, So I decided to put them up there. But he's been good to work with. I like the guy.
I've had really, really good luck with those cups. They work great.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the other ones come out. That'd be
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think a lot of it with the cups is the way the diffuser works on the inside changes everything. Because I've had that champagne cup. Man, that thing is it's a great cup, but the diffuser that comes with it is a piece of junk. Sorry, but it is.
That's the Scotch-Brite pad stuffed up in there?
No, the Scotch-Brite works actually really good. The screens that they sent with that thing is just terrible.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I used to buy those things when I was running the school at Delta. I used to buy them and throw away the diffusers that they made, and I had some regular stainless screen punched out that worked 10 times better, with no grommet in the middle or nothing. I put 2 layers of screen. I forget what mesh it was. That's important. I don't know if it was the grommet or I don't know what it was. It's did you guys not try this thing before you put it on the market? Because it didn't work.
I think that's a lot of the biggest problem is that grommet in the middle of that thing, because I think the gas just flows around and gets away from the, where the tungsten's at.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just know we needed a big cup and it wouldn't work out of the box, so we had to change it.
I found the Scotch-Brite worked 100 times better.
Yeah, the Scotch-Brite worked pretty good until it falls out on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a bad day. That's a.
And then that hole keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Surprise!
Yeah.
Guess what? You just have to work 30 minutes to get back to ground zero now from where you started. No one needs that in their workday, that's for sure.
I have one of those big, giant glass ones that Arc Zone carries.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing, you couldn't even breathe around a truck with that thing. I ended up taking a bunch of O-rings and wrapping a bunch of O-rings around it just so I wouldn't bump it up against any tubes.
And that's where I think Fleurquin was smart to make those titanium shrouds. That gives you a chance if you bump it. Yep. It helps a lot. But and that's why he's coming out with the ceramic version. I'm sure it's just it'll be a good cup. He obviously puts a lot of effort testing and trials and things before he launches something. So I'm fully confident that thing will be a good one.
Oh, I have no doubt it'll be a great one.
So with your chassis welding, do you, to go back a little bit, I don't know what your sanctioning bodies, I mean, I have an idea of what you have to have so far as passing your tech inspections and all that stuff, but did you have to take any welding tests or certifications or anything, or did Guys or Brothers require anything like that, or do clients require that at all?
Nope. Nothing.
There's your answer.
There you go. That was easy.
Each chassis does have to get inspected prior to. It has to be tagged, so they'll come in and they'll test each tube and pretty much each weld and to make sure it's good.
Right.
How do they test them? Just
I
visual?
forget what they call. No, they have it's like a magnet thing, and they have some dust in it, and some dust in a ball, and
Yeah, we were talking about that on one of the last podcasts with Diver Nate. The Nate Martin, the underwater welder guy.
Yeah.
Mag particle.
Yeah.
It's a little yoke with that imposes a magnetic flux, and then a little some metal powder dust, sort of shavings almost. And that's an easy way to testing anything like 4130 or DOM tubing.
Yeah, and then they have, if it's all good, then they'll tag it, and you're good to go.
Now, do they require a hole drilled in the like one of the main tubes? Like, I think it's like 3 inches away from weld or something like that to measure the wall thickness of the tube.
No, they also test for that too. I think they use like a Doppler reader or something.
Okay.
I mean, that's obviously your main cage the main structure cage has to be 120 wall. So if it's not, no tag.
Gotcha.
Well, along the way, Frank, I know you talk about your dad being a big influence and teaching you a lot of things, but, does something stick out in your mind of some guy that you worked under or worked with or just really took you under his wing or really took you to the next level, or good advice that somebody gave you? It could be your dad, could be somebody else.
My dad always gave me great advice. I'd say another big influence was a buddy of mine that I worked for him for a little while. Another fabricator. He's the one that kind of introduced me into TIG welding. So great guy. Smart. No, he got a formula for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Spencer was the big influence in my life. And every time I see him at a party or a gathering or something, he's like, I taught this kid everything I know, and then it gets into one big debate. Well, that was back then, and now I got to teach you stuff, and it's just. But yeah, he's been a big influence on me. But I would say probably the biggest influence probably my dad, just because he's just very old school from Belgium and just a perfectionist. Everything he did was perfect. It was absolute perfection. No. From building, everything he pretty much ever had, he built. So from his machinist box, totally built his own wooden machinist box, looked like something you'd buy at a cool store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that definitely rubbed off on you.
Yeah, everything's making sense now. Connecting the dots.
That's like people say, well, Fleurquin, yeah, that sounds French. Yeah, it is. Frank's pretty much a nickname. Frank's not my real name. My given name is Ile-de-France, which is the same as my father's name.
Don't ask me to pronounce that.
I was going to say, I won't repeat that. So
yeah, it's they're always tough first day of school when they're teachers taking roll.
Had some fun.
Yeah, you always knew who she was looking for.
Yeah.
Well, part 2 of that question is like, if you had like a nephew that you were, he really needed some direction and he was getting into the trade, what good advice would you give him?
As far as if trying to get into my trade nowadays, it's tough. It's so tough to get into a shop nowadays. There's a great school in California called the Fab School. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great school to get into. They pretty much teach you all the basics on bending tube, coping tube, sheet metal work. It's just pretty much everything. TIG welding, MIG welding, a little bit of everything. But for average Joe, I get DMs constantly every day just on questions. People have questions, and I'd love to answer them. I mean, I'm always willing to help the other guy out. But I'd say, don't give up. Just keep learning, keep running beads. I mean, you're not going to learn it overnight for sure. It's like nowadays everybody wants to learn how to weave before they can run a stringer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you sit at a table and just move metal around on a flat piece of plate. Just move it around or get a piece of tubing and just heat it up and just start moving the material around just so you know what you're looking at. And just keep going. I mean, that's pretty much it. Don't let anybody knock you down. Let's I don't know if you guys follow like Rate My Weld or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much, it's just almost bad because there's so much bashing on that side and people are just trying to learn. Give them advice. Don't bash them.
That's a problem. I mean, the guy, I forget his name, escapes me for a minute. We've DM'd back and forth and worked a little together.
Steve Higley.
I'm sorry, what?
Steve Higley.
Okay. we've communicated before, and I have a Facebook group that Jonathan works on, for as far as administrator, moderator, and all that. It's tough to get a handle on those type of groups. You get people coming in, like I said, you want to create a good atmosphere of just being helpful and all that, but man, it's hard to weed out the haters,
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I think I've touched on this before in the past, but Facebook I don't recommend that to be in the first place you go to show your welds as a beginner, because no matter how hard we try, it's near impossible. I mean, it's terrible to weed out these people. I help Steve also on his site, the Rate My Weld site, and it's getting to be. I'm not, it's not nothing with Steve at all. That's just the way Facebook, for some odd reason, everybody's an internet CWI, and as soon as they see you post a weld, on your second night of welding, you're terrible, quit, you'll never be Frank, and it's like, dude, just give the guy some advice and help him. Don't slam them into the ground. But
exactly.
But unfortunately, that's the way that goes. And there are several other places that kind of go that direction, and it's just can be discouraging for sure.
I know. If I could give any beginner welder some advice, I would say don't post your beginning welds on Facebook.
No, absolutely not.
You got plenty of places to compare your welds to. Plenty of good examples, and just you're a little early if you're posting your first MIG bead or your first TIG bead. Yeah, give it a while. Don't post the first, second, even 10th one. Give it a while. And when you're really getting serious and need to get dialed in and need some advice on fine tuning things, then post. When you got a decent looking bead already. Yeah, that first one that looks like Fido's butt. No, keep that one to yourself.
And I think that's why I get a lot of DMs on Instagram. I mean, I'm serious. I get like 5 daily, which I'd love to answer them. I do. I got no hidden secrets. If you want to know, this is just what works for me. That's it.
Right.
It might not be the right way. It might not be the wrong way, but this is what works for me.
Yeah, I agree. Stick with I mean, for now anyway, stick with the Instagram platform and DM the guys you look up to. Share those if you want to share beginner welds. Share them on your page and get the help from guys that follow you. But other than that, good luck.
You get a whole different response on Instagram than you will on Facebook. That's almost a given. I don't know why, but a whole different community on one versus the other, even though they're owned by the same dude.
Right.
I don't know. It's weird, but anyways.
Even on Instagram, you still get them out there. Like, if you get something shared on Weld Porn or Welder Nation, and then, oh man, they just come out of the woodwork.
Right.
It's like, hey man, it's maybe it's, oh, that thing's undercut. Well, you know what? It's probably a shadow. I'm pretty much guaranteeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves that undercut. Yeah, no doubt. And it really is an iPhone, a camera, whatever kind of smartphone. The lighting, and you got to take 10 pictures to do any weld justice.
Absolutely.
You really do. It's just like, it's amazing how you can make something you're proud of and you snap a shot of it and it looks like snot, I mean, that looks like undercut there, but I know it's not. And you look at it again. No, it's not undercut, but yeah. So then you take another angle and then you're kind of like, this is ridiculous,
Yeah.
I'll just post this. And then you're like, crap, I wish I would have taken 10 more because I don't want to put up with all these idiots now.
Yeah.
Right. And my favorite, porosity. And it's not porosity at all.
Yeah.
So with talking about some of the stresses with social media, what are some of the stresses that you run into with building these frames?
Nowadays there's not a whole lot of stress. If it was, 4 years ago, lots of stress because, maybe the cope wasn't tight enough, or you can say it's either, Jeff guys are tacking these things together or somebody else tacking the truck together, or if I tack them together. But nowadays, everything's laser notched, and so there's really not a whole lot of stress. I mean, the only other stress would be trying to, I guess, meet a deadline to, before his first race. I guess that would be it.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I used to weld these aluminum concrete cutting saw frames. The guy would tack them up with a spool gun, and then he wanted them TIG welded out because he wanted them to look really nice on all the welds. And I used to hate that. You know, every time going over those spool gun tags, they all of them had soot and porosity in them and stuff.
Right.
You know, and you just see it boiling out when you went over it. But hey, it was like a strictly by the hour job. So I'm like, well, if you're paying, I guess I'm going to do it. You know.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's another thing. I'm at a place in my life where, you know, I think I might go to welding school. I don't know. I think I might go to welding school, learn, because I've never been. Everything I've learned, I've either read it, watched somebody, or whatever theory I've learned, I've had to look it up. But I think I'd really like to go to welding school and just learn more of the theory about it and learn other aspects of it.
Well, that's interesting.
You know what?
I appreciate the attitude.
Now you need to go into that class, and the teacher's like, "Have you ever done this before?" Nope, never seen it before in my life. Just sit down and lay some beads and be like, "First time, man. This isn't that hard."
Yeah, this stuff's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, you tell him, well, I watched the Eclipse once under a welding hood, but never welded.
Right? Exactly. That's why I bought my welding hood, was for the Eclipse.
Yes.
Right. And thought, well, I have this. I might as well take a welding class, you know?
Yep.
No, honestly, I think you can learn a lot. I've actually considered doing it myself, not anytime soon, but you know, there are a few classes that I'd like to take across the country, and one locally. Actually, it's quite expensive to take, but just to learn, you know, it's not one of them's a more advanced class, but one of the other ones is more basic, and I think you still would see a different perspective, honestly, and that's what I want to get. I want to get the other perspective of the teacher and, you know, those around me. Can always learn.
Exactly. That's the whole reason why I want to do it. I mean, it's just, you know, like I said, I've never had the opportunity to go, so
Why not?
might as well.
That will be awesome.
Have you done many other processes like stick?
Yeah, I've done stick. Back when I was building mining equipment stuff, there was a lot of stick, a lot of inner shield stuff,
Right.
a lot of 70-18, 70-14, a lot of, you know, 60-10, fast fill, fast freeze crap. It's been years since I picked up a stick welder.
Yeah, I've only ran maybe 5 rods in my whole life.
Maybe you need to take a introduction to stick welding class, you know?
There you go.
I would.
Yeah. Get to learn something anyway.
I'd be trying to add wire with my other hand, though.
It would be like, I don't know what to do with this other hand. Yeah.
Well, that's called Texas TIG.
I guess I'll start smoking or something.
Just get another rod in the other hand and just try and add it with it, you know, with the arc rod.
It works.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
It does work. Just good luck keeping up with it.
Yeah. So what other type of things do you like doing outside of work at your job and at home?
I like spending time with my best friend, my wife. I mean, we take our razor out, go on razor rides,
Nice.
travel. We love to travel. Pretty much anything with her. Go see the kids. So that's pretty much it. She's my best friend, man. We've been married 25 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not a lot of people can say that these days, can they?
No, we beat the odds a while ago.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, met her the old-fashioned way. Met her in a bar.
Yeah. Hey,
Nice.
I'm working on 36 years. Met her in a bar.
See, congratulations.
So yeah, we dated 3 months before we were married.
I think we dated a year and a half before we got married. We did the backwards. We did the baby before marriage.
That can work too.
Yeah, it did.
I wouldn't change nothing, you know. I mean, it's worth it sticking it out there, you know. It's definitely worth it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, she's great. She's like one of the guys. I mean, you know, obviously you put a few beers in her hand, and yeah, she talks like a sailor, but you know, she's also an officer at a company, so he knows what face to put on for the right time.
Cool. You just grow. I mean, spending that long with one another, you know, you kind of, some people grow apart, some people grow together, and I'll take growing together any day, you know.
For sure.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, you know, what you like to do so far as the future as with the welding school, but what else where do you kind of see yourself in 5 years? That, you know, that kind of question. Do you see yourself still building chassis? Do you want to grow your own personal business, retire? I mean, what do you see yourself doing?
Retire would be great. 5 years, I'd say I've, you know, probably just still plugging along, probably just doing the same thing, working at Geyser Brothers and working out of my house. Still just enjoying life, relaxing, traveling, and taking life as it comes. I mean, that's pretty much about it. I don't really. There's no need for me to change jobs. There's no need for me to really do anything. We do well. So that's kind of, I'll probably be right here. I mean,
right. No, nothing wrong with that at all. I just, I've been thinking about some of the questions we've asked, and it's kind of interesting, kind of like an interview, I guess.
Right.
A job interview, asking. I got that asked. I've always said you'd be prepared for that question. And the other day, someone in a pretty serious conversation, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'll be honest with you, I stumbled. I'm like, whoa, I better think about that a little bit more.
I mean, I've had plenty of opportunities to make more money, but you got to work more hours. And I'm like, no,
right.
I'm good. I mean, it's just, we do great. We make plenty of money, so we're good. I don't need to make any more money. I mean, obviously, more money is not a bad thing, but I'd rather make it here out of the house than spending more time away from home.
Right.
That's kind of where I was when I was doing my side hustle at home. A lot of times I had the opportunity to take the company up on overtime, and the overtime scale was really good, along with getting money matched in your 401k and stuff like that. But I would just prefer to be at home doing stuff, just a better overall for the family. Because, I'm not with the family, but in 2 minutes I could be with the family, so I can, you're kind of there. And it's a big difference.
For sure. And I think that's kind of tough to, have your daughter, way over in Texas. And I have 2 grandkids also, so it's kind of tough not seeing them all the time. But on the upside, next Wednesday, I'll be heading to Texas to go see the grandkids. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yep. I was with my grandkids last night. I got 4 of them.
Oh, good for you.
It was awesome. And then I left, and that was even more awesome.
Get them
I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
Go home.
I just mean, that's what's the awesome thing about being a grandparent. You're not there forever,
When you're done with them, you just give them back.
Give them back. Like, I've done my thing. Already. I'll take them for a little while and give them back, and I'm go home, chill out. So it was fun.
Give them back all sugared up.
Oh yeah, that's a given. That's a given. You got to give them a shot of bourbon and a bowl of sugar before you give them back.
That's what I want to, I've been out there next week. I want to keep, every time I go out there, I keep wanting to try to hook up with Isaac, but it just never seems to work out.
Yeah. Texas is like a country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big state. Yeah.
Well, he's Austin area. So, my daughter and son-in-law are over at Fort Hood in Killeen, which is, it's only 40 minutes outside of Austin. It's not very far.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to do that sometime. Yeah. He's an awesome dude. He's a good hang, good interview, just good dude.
He is. I had a great time in Vegas hanging out with him.
So did you go to that thing that he was sort of, I won't want to say orchestrate, but he kind of was the force behind that meet and greet at Hard Rock? Did you go to that thing?
I did.
Meet everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. I met, like I said, there was a ton of people.
Oh yeah, man. That was my, I had a prior engagement kept me from going to that thing, but, my fear on those kind of things is you never really know. You could have 20 people or 200 people, and sometimes the places aren't prepared for 200 people, and kind of makes it a little awkward for a little while. Everything worked out.
It started off slow, then they got pretty good. I mean, there was quite a few people there. It was kind of weird not seeing, Rush Kane without his hood on, but
that was cool meeting everybody like that at the last Fab Tech. I'm sure it's going to be even, it's going to get better and better at each one. It's like this next one is probably going to be way better than the last one, because just we keep kind of sort of, promoting going, and people see other posts on Instagram, and, I think this one will be the best one ever.
I'm sure it'll be great. Like I said, I can't wait. Hopefully they'll come back to Vegas. So
yeah, was it in Atlanta the year after Chicago? I'll be happy to see that.
Yeah, I'm sure you
save
will.
Save me a little, airfare and stuff.
A little time, yeah. That's all right. Well, hopefully we'll get to meet you at a Fab Tech, Frank, in the future.
That'd be great.
Or if something opens up, we hope to see you this year. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I wish I could. I honestly do. Chicago is just so far away.
Yeah. So do you go to SEMA as a rule every year?
I used to, and it's just kind of tapered off. I miss it. I'm gonna try and go. I'm gonna try and go to this SEMA. If not, I'm sure I'll get Joel stopping back by here after SEMA, and whoever else wants to stop by. So
That'll be nice.
yeah, it was great. So if anybody out there, any of you guys come back from SEMA, come on by.
There
you go. Official invite. He'll teach you everything he knows.
Yeah, got a big 1,000 square foot game room. Come on by.
Nice.
Before we're getting close to wrapping this thing up, I think. But I have one question that I've been puzzled about. When you're doing your pedal pulsing, are you kind of leaving the wire in the puddle, or are you dipping it in and out?
See, I get asked that all the time. You dip? No, I kind of shove. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much a lay wire, but you shove it in there when you ramp the amperage up then?
Yep. As soon as that amperage ramps up, I'm shoving it in. I'm kind of moving the torch backwards a little bit, if that makes sense.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll, bring it down. I don't shut the pedal all the way off. I just back it off enough to freeze the puddle. And then I'll come back forward and do it again.
Makes sense.
I got to practice.
Yeah.
I'm inspired now.
And I mean, obviously, a good root pass is going to make or break your cap pass. You see a lot of people, they just kind of flip flop on the root pass, and I try and keep it as smooth and consistent as I can, because on the cap pass, it just makes it that much nicer. Now,
on your root pass, do you dab that in, or is that kind of a lay wire in there?
Nope, I do. It's just if you look on my Instagram, there's a couple pictures of root passes on there. Every little ripple is a shove of the wire, and it's as fast as I can shove the wire in there, and I just keep on moving it. No, it's not a lay wire, and it's a constant pedal.
Cool.
Well, there's something for everybody to chew on.
Yeah, really.
The thing about it is, you could think, I don't want to give my secrets away here, but you could take 30 minutes to describe exactly how you did it. It wouldn't matter, because what it takes is somebody that's willing to go cut up a bunch of tubing and spend days and weeks hammering the details out, and that's going to be a rare bird right there. We had Alex Brown, Caveman Welder, on Instagram.
Yep.
Go back to this example. You talked about I wanted to learn how to backfeed a root pass in pipe. So one weekend I went in and I beveled up like 20, 30 coupons and just tried to teach myself how to backfeed a root pass. Well, that's the kind of attitude and effort it takes to do something special.
Yeah, for sure. And, I tell everybody, they ask, how do you do it? Well, I said, fire up the welder. Once you find the right size keyhole going, then you just start shoving the wire in there. Like,
yeah.
Oh, well, I'll just go do that. yeah. Like I said, it takes seat time, hood time, arc time to do anything to the level that you're doing it, Frank. You have to, and I'm just throwing out opinions here. You got to be very intentional. You got to be paying attention to some detailed things. Like you just said, pay attention to that keyhole. Well, some guys don't know what a keyhole is, and that's just little nuances and stuff that you really have to pay attention to while you're practicing, because just running beads is not going to get you there. You got to be very intentional and very pragmatic, and, the next one needs to be done with that in mind. Okay, what I do wrong there? The keyhole wasn't big enough, or I didn't have a keyhole, or I fed the rod in the wrong angle, or whatever. And so you got to be constantly making these little improvements as you go in order to get to the level where you are. I guess a point that I'm trying to make. It's just you got to be a thinking man to get to this kind of level.
And like I said, everything changes from, if it's a super long cope, it's going to change from the starting point at the very edge to where it, dips down into the crevice. Everything's going to change. If you're going from the crevice out, you're going to start super hot and you're going to end super cold by the time you get to the very end of the tube. Or if you go the other way, then obviously when you get into the crevice, you're going to want to heat it up a little more to get that penetration in there, because you're trying to dig it in that crevice.
Mm-hmm.
Well spoken, well said.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days we'll get to actually watch it. There's a huge thing, with just watching somebody do it too. We can kind of get the idea, but you still pick up when you get to watch.
I've tried so many videos that just come out like crap. It's just hard to find a good lens, and you just can't really get the gist of it.
Right. Be tough.
Jody's got great videos. I don't know what the heck he does, but.
Well, it ain't the same every time, I can tell you that.
Secrets in the sauce.
Yeah. I'm still learning. Yeah, I still learning little tricks. And what worked for me 2 months ago, I'll try again on something very similar. I'm like, that looks like crap. Now I got to make some adjustments. I don't know if the camera just changes over time, or time for a new camera, or what. But I keep fighting with it.
What camera you use? Like a GoPro or something, or just a regular camera? Or
I'm using it's a video camera, a Canon XA10.
Yeah,
it's what my latest one anyway. I'm about due for an upgrade, and I have no idea what that upgrade is going to be. But it's like I have about 1,600 in it, and probably got several hundred more in different lenses and stuff. And I've dropped one before, and it's dead. That's the cost of doing business. It sucks, man. When you kick a tripod and then there goes your $1,600 camera smacking on the concrete. You're like, wow, that's awesome.
Well, time to go inside.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's worse than dropping a Fupa cup, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's that's just people ask me all the time about arc shots and stuff, and it's like I have to write a book to explain, and I don't know that I could adequately explain even then, because it's different every time for almost every scenario.
That might be your retirement.
Yeah,
Fund.
maybe.
There you go.
Maybe you need to start your own school.
Maybe. Sounds like a lot of work to me.
Well, I tell you what, if you do, you can sign me up.
Okay, that'd be cool. I might sign you up as an instructor if I do. If I do that.
No. I'm there to learn theory.
Yeah, I'm the same boat. I'm looking at trying to learn some new things too, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to carve time out to do that. But I've got Georgia Trade School near me now. They're going to relocate. They're doing a grand opening coming up pretty soon, in a month or two. I don't know exactly when it's going to be. Probably later than they think. But I'm kind of thinking I might pop in over there and try to learn, kind of watch over some of their instructors' shoulders, because some of the stuff that I'm so rusty on, open root 6010 and things like that, I could definitely bone up on a few things.
Yeah, that'd be. I mean, I don't think you can ever stop learning.
Definitely true, and you shouldn't. You should never have that attitude where I'm good now. I'm pretty much got a handle on all this. I got my stuff together. Yeah, it's just you got to keep the mind active. To keep young, keep fighting that old age thing.
Yeah, and it's probably that's the bad thing is I pick out my flaws all the time, and it just drives me bananas. It kills me. And to the normal eye, it's probably fine, but I see it, and I'm sure you guys are the same way.
Oh yeah.
Definitely keeps me from posting a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking through my camera roll a couple of days ago or whatever, because I haven't been posting a whole lot on Instagram, and I got a whole bunch of stuff that I should post or could post, and it's just I don't know about that, and it doesn't make it there. It hasn't made it there yet, but just because I'm nitpicking it.
Yep. I probably got 2,500 photos on my phone. It's like I see that right there, and I can't do it. Somebody's going to see it, and they're going to pick it apart.
Yep.
I just can't. That's like I get to think, well, why do you add filters? Why do you add color? I go, well, you can't add color. I said you have to have color in order to see color. You can't just add color in a weld.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I think I may be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that most phones pretty much sort of have a built-in filter from the get-go. Even the picture you take is already sort of enhancing what color is there.
It is.
If you look at a say an old school Minolta 35 millimeter, and you take a picture with that and a picture with an iPhone, it's pretty obvious the iPhone is kind of bringing out certain vibrant colors. It's not trying to be accurate; it's just trying to sell the iPhone.
Right.
But it's still pretty cool for the average guy that has no aspirations of being a photographer. Just wants to be able to take a nice looking picture of his kids and stuff. But yeah, it's already got built-in filters before you start messing with it. And you're just, like you say, you're just enhancing what's already there.
Right. It's got to be there to enhance. So.
Well,
anyone have any other questions?
I better just stop because I can keep going on and on.
Wait.
There's a couple more I thought of. And it's like, how long do we want to go? But I'll throw one out if you guys don't have nothing else, unless you want to close.
Go for it.
Throw it out there.
Whatever you got.
So when you're getting ready to weld a chassis, you got it all tacked together. How many dry runs do you take? And with that question, do you do a lot of practice before you weld your tubing together?
As far as like hand motion?
Hand motions, do you practice on some scrap before, like in the morning, before you go weld up the chassis kind of a thing? Because I know several of the people we've talked to and interviewed have mentioned that and we all do it, that you practice on a scrap cluster joint or whatever you got. Do you get into that, or what secret do you have behind that?
Nope, I don't get into that. I get right into the work.
Oh, that makes me look even worse.
As far as any practice, prep or practice, no, it's just making sure the tube's totally clean. That's just pretty much it. I'll just dive right into the tube and go for it. That's been me. It's just go.
Well, whatever works. Obviously, it works for you.
I guess if you don't like it, I guess you could always go back over it.
Right. You could.
Turn it up a little hotter and go back over it.
Right.
Just smoother out.
That's all I got for you guys, or for you, anyway, that I can think of anyway.
Well, is there anything you would like to add, Frank, that we may not have talked about?
Yeah, this is your opportunity just to throw this out there, to promote your own business, to promote, your company you work for, promote anything you want.
If you're looking for a high-end trophy truck, get a hold of geyserbrother.com. As far as if you want any chopper stuff, hot rod stuff, sheet metal stuff, you can get a hold of me, or any kind of welding or whatever. Other than that, if you want tube bending done by me, forget about it.
Not into that, huh?
Not roll cages anyways. No off-road stuff here.
Yeah. Yeah. If somebody wants me to weld some cast iron, forget about it. No, I do it from time to time, but I don't do it I don't solicit that work. That's for sure. If somebody asks me if I can do it, I'll generally tell them no thanks. Because you just have to draw the line at certain things. If you don't enjoy it, or if you don't find it profitable, or just been a problem for you, and you're making good money anyway, you gotta, hey, you ain't getting no younger. Do the things you like to do. Right?
Exactly. That's why it's nice to be able to pick and choose on what I want to do. If I don't want to do it, it's not going to hurt me. So it kind of is what it is. But anything else, yeah, I'll pretty much do. If you want a chopper built, you want a nice bagger built, absolutely. I'll be more than happy to tackle any of that stuff.
Cool.
And since they will turn it down, if you're interested, head on over to superiorweldingfab.com.
There's always that hungry guy out there who'll take it on, right?
On occasion, you kind of get hungry and you just got to take what you get. And it's like, oh, man, I don't want to do that, but it pays.
Hey, man, I've done plenty, I've done I built sewer crawler tractors from scratch, and then I've done them when they come back for repair. Much rather do them from scratch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, you don't know what when you light up on something that's been crawling around in sewers for years, and also it's got some electroless nickel plating on it, and this, that, and the other. It's you want to have that respirator on, and then still hold your breath almost.
Yeah, really. Nice.
But I did it, and I was glad to get the money for it at the time,
Yeah.
So
it's like welding that galvanized fence post.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You do what you got to do, and you got to do it, though.
That's it.
You do. Well, now I'm going to send everybody over to you, Jonathan. So
yeah.
I'll take the galvanized.
All galvanized.
No. Not galvanized. Chassis and cast iron.
And oil-soaked aluminum castings will go to Jonathan Lewis.
Well, I suppose I won't be too picky. Might turn out to be the biggest jobs I get, so who knows? All right, cool. Well, you guys want to close it up then?
Yeah, sure. Just before we close, just to make sure everybody recognizes Frank Fleurquin on Instagram, go check him out, and you'll be glad you did. A lot to learn from looking at his posts. And thanks, Frank, for being on.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure, man. Thanks for being on.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to once again thank those that support us over on Patreon. This month, we'd like to once again thank Steve Funk, Eric Ruppel, Thor Goodmanson, No San Juan, Shane Gunnan, Jacob Elder, Dave Horvath, Scott Silva, and House of Chop. If you would like to support the podcast, head on over to patreon.com/Welding Tips and Tricks Podcast.
And if you'd like to reach us here at the podcast, you can email us at weldingtipsandtrickspodcast@gmail.com. And if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, our phone number is 915-308-7024. I'm Roy Cromrine.
I'm Jody Collier.
And I'm Jonathan Lewis.
And I'm Frank Fleurquin, and that's a wrap.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.